The final day of the Tour de Ski, we're halfway there. The men's race is complete, and Martin Jonsrud Sundby claiming the title for the men's race for the second year in succession. Norway now with 3 titles, having had none at this stage last year. So now it's all about Marit Bjørgen. Can she hold off Heidi Weng and Therese Johaug, last year's champion? The margins between the starters on this final leg of the women's race, absolutely huge. Let's just go through them so you've got some idea of the task in hand. Marit Bjørgen has a 2-minute 11-second lead over Heidi Weng at the start. Therese Johaug is 2:50 behind Bjørgen, so there is a good race there. Weng versus Johaug. Johaug a better climber. Weng desperate to finish in second or be on the podium again for the second year in succession. But between Johaug and Haga, there's a 6:47 is Haga's margin behind Marit Bjørgen, so she's almost 4 minutes behind Therese Johaug. A kilometre, 1.2 kilometres maybe between them, and no chance for Haga of seeing the podium places today. Justina Kowalczyk goes at 7:02. Elizabeth Steven, a great climber. She might fancy getting up into the top 4. She starts number 6, 7:39 behind. And Vrabkova of the Czech Republic, 7:46 behind. So they're hugely spread out. Well, let's just have a look at the men's results just to remind you. Yevgeny Belov starting 4, took a fall yesterday in the classic race, but he came strong today, and had he got a better result yesterday, he might well have challenged for a top position. Petter Northug, a man who's already finished in third or finished in second 3 times, finishes in second, the runners-up position yet again, but he did look happy with that. I think he knew the writing was on the wall when he only had a 3-second lead over Martin Jonsrud Sundby at the start of today. Sundby, well, he said he didn't feel too hot on the initial flat stage, but once the climb started, he settled into the race. The nerves settled as well, and Sundby claiming his second title in 2 years. Only Dario Colonia has achieved that so far. I don't have much doubt that Sundby will be back next year, health permitting, to try and make it 3 in a row. And he's going to be a very, very tough man to beat. So, Mike, a really good effort by Sundby.
Well, he wanted it. He really wanted it for a second in a row, and look at the advantage in World Cup points terms.
340 points clear. Remember, 100 points for a win, so he's 3 victories clear of Petter Northug at the moment, going into the second half of the season. He is, of course, the defending overall champion. It's all been pretty rosy for Sundby, apart from the fact that he didn't get any gold medals, individual gold medals at the Olympic Games last year, so he's got to hang around until Pyeongchang if he wants to do that.
Well, the way that Jonsrud Sundby is performing, he looked a little shaky on a couple of days during the last 7 here, or the last 9 days, I should say. But when it comes to this last final day, if he's in with a chance, he takes that chance.
Well, these are live pictures from Val di Fiemme, the start, of course, of the women's last leg. Same distance, same course, a 1.8 kilometre loop before they head towards the mountain. And that will just give us an indication of how quick they're starting. Most people need skins and heavy-duty gear to get up this climb. Actually, Mike, that might be quicker than cross-country skis. We've yet to see anyone stop and put a pair of skins on and run up the hill. I don't think there's anything against the rules of stopping at the base and putting some wax on.
No, freestyle, you could actually have your classic skis on from the gun and run up the hill. You could do that, but obviously teams have tested it.
Well, you'd certainly have to freestyle into the bottom, but some of that tape that you can put on the ski, which is a little like sticky wax, it works very well. It might work, but you'd probably still have to use the herringbone, which is slower than skating.
Interesting. On a wet day conditions, it's possible, but 405 metres of climbing, it's an incredible test either way.
Well, this is old footage. Obviously, we haven't seen snow conditions like this so far this season, which is a real shame. Just shows you what this area can look like when conditions are at their best. That's the age to learn. Well, it is a stunning venue. Of course, the Dolomites, world famous, fantastic climbing. And there's a good atmosphere at the top of the climb. Good crowd today for the men's race, perhaps not quite as big as we'd like to see, but I just got a feeling that the atmosphere getting a little more special on the final day of the Tour de Ski. I'm afraid the women's race potentially could be a bit of a damp squib, Mike, with the top three so far ahead of everyone else. It really is only a race for the podium places. Kowalczyk has been raced out of it.
Athletes that actually looks forward to today's climb up Alpe Chemise.
Yeah, that's for sure. I definitely do. I love to climb, and this is a great venue, so nice to be back in Italy. And
in a good position, you know, we saw you into the top 10 last year and in striking distance again this year, especially with your climbing ability. Is it a goal at the start of the tour to be inside the top 10? Did you have any placing goals?
Yeah, actually, the one I set before the tour was top 5. So we'll see if I have a really good climb, maybe we can get in there. But a top 10 is always, it's really nice to come home with a little money, and just a top 10 anytime is really great. So.
Well, yeah, we wish you luck later today.
Oh, thanks so much.
Elizabeth Stephen, a very good climber indeed. Certainly she'll have a chance. She might have a crack at Justina Kowalczyk, who starts some 37 seconds in front of her. She's got to be careful though, Mike. Take that first section relatively easy. Andrew Musgrave will tell you about it this evening. If you go too hard early on, you suffer later on. It's the rule of racing, but Stephen could get a little bit excited, but she's aiming for top 5. She starts in 6th, and certainly potentially one of the fastest climbers today, behind of course Therese Johaug. Welcome back to Val di Fiemme. We are of course waiting for the start of the final race of this year's Tour de Ski. Let's just have a look at the placings at the moment. Therese Johaug getting her first stage win in the Tour de Ski yesterday. Delighted with that, out sprinting Marit Bjørgen. That doesn't happen so often, and that means that she has reduced the gap between herself and Heidi Weng to 39 seconds, a very achievable margin on the last day. Marit Bjørgen, of course, the overall tour leader. She won the first 5 stages. She finished 2nd yesterday. She's been absolutely superb so far, and I think about to put to bed the fact that she has never won the Tour de Ski. She can finally say she's won everything.
It was interesting though with Jon-Trud Sundby. He said he was so desperately tired on this, the first flat section of the course. There's not much flat, and it's all in that first section. And then we come just past 5 kilometers, we begin to hit a phenomenal climb, 405 meters of rise. Well, as you can see, in just over, 3 kilometers, it gets a little flat again at the top, but the ultimate test at the end of 9 days and 7 days racing. Surely that 2 minutes 11 advantage that Bjørgen has carrying into today, surely she can't be touched.
Well, 2:11. The margin. Heidi Weng, I think, will probably be starting trying to defend 2nd. Therese Johaug might be starting thinking 150, I can do this. She always takes 110, 115 off Marit Bjørgen. If she has an absolute flyer, then 150 is possible, but it's unlikely at this stage. How does she race it, Mike?
I think she's got to hold something back in the first 5 kilometers. We saw that it's gently downhill. They don't have to do the 1.8 kilometers within the stadium, so it's straight down the valley, which is where the Marche Longue, the marathon race, goes, and then into the base of the hill. From the base of the hill, she will see Marit Bjørgen ahead of her, and then she will just dig deep. She does it every year and seems to find some extra spark of energy somewhere from within her body, and has always set the fastest time up this mountain. Elizabeth Stephen, we heard her on the interview. I think she might, certainly push Therese Johaug's best time today, because she's also a very good climber. And the nerves have got to be jangling there, especially if your name's Heidi Weng, because Therese will definitely want to move from 3rd up into 2nd place at least. Wonder what's going through Marit Bjørgen's mind. She's tried a good number of times to win the Tour de Ski, and with a 2 minutes 11 advantage, this is her best ever opportunity. And the form she's shown, quite untouchable, only losing one of the 6 stages so far to Johaug yesterday.
A very good afternoon to you and welcome to the finale of the 2015 Tour de Ski. We can't call it the 2014-15 Tour anymore because they started a week later this year on the 3rd of January. And here we are about to see who is going to claim the title. Will it be Marit Bjørgen? Absolutely hot favourite today. A 2-minute 11-second lead over Heidi Weng and Therese Johaug starting at 2:50. So away she goes. 1,800 metres a loop before she heads towards the hill, Mike.
Well, no, of course, on the women's track, she's just heading straight on down the valley. So a slightly different course, even though they say it is a 9-kilometre for the women today.
Powerful technique. How does she take it? Well, she certainly hasn't started slowly. That's a dynamic climb up the first little hill.
Very dynamic. So she's certainly setting her stall out early that she will not be caught.
Well, I guess her aim is never to be seen by the likes of Weng and Johaug, who start behind her. It's been a Norwegian battle all the way through. We've had 1, 2, 3, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Norway on some of the stages. Totally dominant. Today it's all about Weng, Johaug and Bjørgen, but we have to mention Ragnhild Haga, who's had a very good tour, currently lying in 4th place. And they just seem to have an endless supply of world-class women.
And to get to this stage, as you said, all 4 of them in the top 4, you need to be a good all-rounder. You have to have the ability to sprint, or you lose the potential of a 60-second bonus, as of course Bjørgen gained all the way back to 1 second for 30th place. You've got to have everything: classic skiing, freestyle skiing as we're doing today, and an engine that'll keep you going over 9 days. A lot of stress as well. How do you recover? Recovery is a huge aspect of this Tour de Ski. And each team seem to manage it differently. We've seen buses, tour buses, where after the race they can go into the tour bus after a warm down, get some food, relax. Quite interesting how teams have tried to manage the recovery.
Yeah, maybe learning from cycling a little, where they're straight in, change of clothes, some food, a massage, just to make sure that you're in tip-top shape for the following day. 7 races, 9 days. The women is a whole lot shorter, Mike. An hour's less racing over the 7 days than the men have, but it's still a very tough programme, particularly these last 2 days. Away goes Heidi Weng. Now, it's much harder to know you're being chased than it is to chase. So if she can just persuade herself that she's got a chance of winning, Mike, are we likely to see a better performance than if she's just 100% aware of Therese Johaug behind her?
I think it will. It'll take some tension, and for all sport, for all top-level sport, you need relaxation in your movements or you're wasting energy. And if you think you're being chased down or caught, there's tension in your performance and in your thinking, which reduces performance.
Well, just have a look at Therese Johaug starting. She has time and time again been the fastest on the climb already in her relatively short career. She has been, in the last 6 years, she's been the fastest up this hill 5 times, beaten only by Stiara, her teammate, back in 2010. And she's got a phenomenally quick time as well, 33:14, her record time on this ascent. Of course, the snow conditions make a big difference, but it just shows you what she's capable of. And as we mentioned yesterday, Mike, the last 3 years, her time, 34:17, 34:12, 34:19.
Oh, super consistent. I think the conditions today will allow her to be faster than the times you've just read out there.
Sub 34, I think, highly likely. She's been down as low as 33:14. She might match that.
Well, Marit, still not many people at the start. They're all at the finish. Quite an empty stadium today. But she seems to have backed off a little, Patrick. She started strong. Now she's into a rhythm.
Well, that's the first 1.8 out of the way. 7.2 to go. But the hardest the hardest 4 still to come, of course. The final stage. And those fans up the top of the Alpe d'Huez, I think they've probably had 3 or 4 glühwein since the end of the men's race, and they'll be looking forward to the arrival of Marit Bjørgen. Now, Mike, the men's race so close this year. Why hasn't the women's been the same?
you've got such a strength and depth in the Norwegian team, and when you look at the 4 Norwegian athletes, well, the top three, they are accounting for the top 2 minutes 50, and then you've got to go all the way back to 6:47. So there's just a super strength within this hardcore top end of the Norwegian women's team, who seem to be pushing each other higher and higher all the time. The young athletes of Weng and Johaug are trying to chase Bjørgen, and it's lifting their performances all the time. So we've got a team that's got an amazing role model, an amazing team captain, and I think that's what's helping drag up these incredibly talented youngsters in the Norwegian team. When you think about it, Patrick, just 2 years ago, Marit Bjørgen picked up 4 gold and 1 silver at the World Championships on these tracks. She just, and she's not slowing down, she's getting faster and faster. The first part of this course, it's on the World Championships tracks here in Val di Fiemme, which they all know so well. Teresa was winning medals here 2 years ago as well, of course in the relay, the gold medal.
Heidi Weng looking very solid, as many of you will have noticed. The wearer of the black bib. I know Colin and Tony wanting to know what the black bib means.
Well, it's the overall sprint points, so from the sprint day and then picking up your bonus seconds. So it's picking up the bonus, hoovering up the most bonus seconds on the journey.
And a fancy car on offer for the winner of that as the race goes on. So Heidi Weng will be looking forward to that. She's been very effective this year. Now we need to keep an eye on the margin between Heidi Weng and Therese Johaug. Johaug has worked very hard over this first 1.8, 2:13. So Heidi Weng giving away only 2 seconds to Marit Bjørgen in the first 1.8 kilometres. And Johaug should go through at around 2:50. Anything under 2:50 and she's moving faster than Bjørgen. She is 1.4 seconds gained on Marit Bjørgen, but she's gained 3.4 on Heidi Weng. So
there's nothing in it when you look. Heidi's lost 2 seconds in 1.8 kilometres to Bjørgen, so all 3 of them as usual running within 4 seconds of each other.
So the best of the rest underway now. Ragnhild Haga started 4th for Norway, being chased by Justina Kowalczyk. Are we going to see some vintage Kowalczyk, or is she going to suffer on the climb with the freestyle technique as she seems to have done so far this year? But she has as good an engine as anyone out there, and if Kowalczyk can just get herself up into the top 4, I think she'll be happy that she's completed the tour.
And as gutsy, as powerful, as mentally strong as Kowalczyk is, who knows what she's going to do on the hill.
There goes Elizabeth Stephen, certainly tipped to finish in the top 5 today. She's got to catch either Kowalczyk or the youngster Haga. Vrabkova goes for the Czech Republic. Then Nicole Fessel of Germany, waiting to go, wearing 8. Denise Herrmann, 9. We've got Emma Wieken, 10. And Stephanie Buller, number 11. So lots of Germans in the top 15. And if they team up, then we may see something special from them. We've got Ann Kiloinen, number 12. Just about a start for Finland. Stadlober of Austria, really good tour for her so far, and she is starting number 13, 8 minutes 34. She's over 3 kilometers behind Marit Bjørgen. Bjørgen's almost going to have her feet up at the top and claiming the top prize, while Stadlober hits the bottom of the climb. Well, she's worked hard, Mike. You can tell from the breathing that Bjørgen taking no risks whatsoever through 4 kilometers, 8 minutes 38. Just think of the time they took for the race yesterday, and that was what was it, over 10 kilometers yesterday. Took 33.3, so they were taking roughly 3 minutes 20 per kilometer, and you can see from the time today, 4 kilometers completed in 8:38.
It's fast, and I think Bjørgen's trying to set the opportunity, just closing down any belief from Weng and Johaug that they can close the gap down, so psychologically hurt them early in the race.
Yeah, probably a good tactic, provided she saves enough for the climb. Tanizhina of Russia getting underway, and Rydqvist of Sweden just behind there. Then Jaskowicz of Poland, a really promising Polish athlete. What is she now, 28? Looked good in the tour last year. And then von Siebenthal of Switzerland starts 18. She's had a better tour than we saw last year. Rydqvist.
I think the Swedish team, the Swedish women's team as well as the men's team have done well this year. And of course we had Nilsson, who decided to withdraw from the tour on day 5, I think it was, and she certainly was performing well and chasing in both classic and freestyle. So for next year, she might be the big name in the women's field, or at least chasing Marit Bjørgen, Johaug and Weng. 18 just starting there, von Siebenthal.
There's Hager of Norway. Thanks to Kathy for your email. Big fan of Petter Northug. I guess you'll be sorry that he didn't manage to pull it off this year, but he did get a great second place. He had to fight hard for that, holding off Beloff. And also wanting to see Andrew Musgrave come through the ranks. Well, he gave it a go, Mike, but having started so hard in Toblach, feeling that he could do it again today, but it sort of backfired a little.
It seemed to, when you look how difficult the terrain is in the stadium, and that's your first 1.8 kilometres, and that really hurts. If you hit that, if you take that into your upper levels early on, you can't flush the lactic acid. So he then took a real pace down the valley for the next 3.5 kilometres, and then you're burning this really high lactic acid, which you cannot get rid of when you then begin to hit the 400-metre climb over the next 3 kilometres. Well, Johaug is closing down on Marit Bjørgen, 2:41. She started 2:50 behind.
Now Kowalczyk at 7:22. She started at 7:02, so Kowalczyk's going the wrong way. We're waiting to see what Hager has done. Well, so Hager, you can see she's lost some 15 seconds. She's lost 10 seconds more than Kowalczyk. But what about Elizabeth Steven, who started wearing bib number 6? Steven dropping down a 9, 7:51 down already, so she's lost 12 seconds to the race leaders and being put under pressure by Vradkova and Fessel. But actually that might be just the way to race the first 4K. Get some help. Welcome back to the Tour de Ski. Bjørgen is away and clear, extending her lead over her nearest rivals, Weng and Johaug. That's the story at the moment. Johaug making a bit of an impression on Heidi. Weng looking for that second place, having won it last year. We saw Elizabeth Steven just before the break losing time to the 3 athletes who started behind her, but I just get a feeling that a little bit of help over the first 4.5 kilometres isn't a bad thing, Mike, because Steven's forte is the climb, and if she doesn't save any energy for it, she's not going to be able to perform to her optimal level.
And remember yesterday, Elizabeth Steven put in an incredible fight. She fought and fought and fought, and Sundby told us after his race that he felt terrible. He didn't use this word. He felt terrible for the first 5 kilometres in this race. He had no feeling in his legs, he said. And he worked differently, and then he just began to get into it here at 6.2 kilometres.
6.2. Marit Bjørgen on the climb now, and I think it's going to be very interesting to see what the women can do, Mike, because usually they're only a minute or so behind the time recorded by the best men. I did mention that Johaug produced a time of 33:14. That's her best. Sundby's time for the win, I think he was 29:57, was he?
29:27 or 29:57, confirm that.
Well, while we watch Bjørgen attack the first part of the slope, thank you to Alexander, who's been in touch. Alexander wasn't impressed with the ski tracks yesterday, Mike. I get the feeling he wanted to see a time trial instead of the mass start, but I haven't met anyone who didn't enjoy yesterday's race. It was a fantastic spectacle, but I think his main concern is the condition of the tracks, having seen so many fallers.
I can understand that, but look here, when you've got 11 degrees temperature in daytime, it's very difficult. So they had to make the decision, the call yesterday on a 15-kilometre race, to create it only on a 2.5 kilometre track. But it had everything. There were falls, there were changes of pace. It was pretty good.
Yeah, but you've got to bear in mind this snow was half a metre deep when they laid it down, and you can see how much has disappeared. As a consequence, a lot of the dirt is coming through. It was the dirt causing the issue yesterday, and combine that with the soft snow on the corners that were going to be fallers. The athletes knew that, and if you know that, you make a little bit of space for yourself. I think a couple were too eager, and we saw them falling early on. Only a couple of falls later on in the race. So I give credit to the race organisers here in Val di Fiemme. I think they've done a fantastic job with the little amount of snow that they've been given. But I do also understand Alexander when he says, let's take the Tour de Scandinavia. Well, we do have a mini tour. We have a mini tour in Falun. We have a mini tour. I know Finland isn't Scandinavia, but we have a mini tour in Kusamo. What about making that just one tour at the end of the season?
I think Alexander's onto something. If you spread it, well, even over like we have here, if you took the Tour de Ski in March up to Norway and Sweden, of course we'd get 20,000 people each day watching, maybe more. If there's anything to go by at the World Championships in Oslo, we had sometimes 140,000 spectators for the 50-kilometre day. The men's time was one in 29:27.
29:27. I don't think Marit Bjørgen's going to be able to match that, but we'll keep an eye on Therese Johaug. I think she could go under 30. She could go under 33 minutes today for the first time in the women's race. Heidi Weng still looking really solid. I like her technique, Mike. She's a sort of mix. She's a mix between Sundby and Norton.
Well, she is, and this is now where Therese Johaug will come into her own. And she's just, well, she's only, what, 1.60 meters, just a bit less actually, and
still 19 seconds behind. She started
39
what, 39 seconds behind, you just said?
She started,
I'm talking behind Heidi Weng. Behind Heidi Weng. She started 39 seconds behind Heidi Weng, so that's a good gain of 20 seconds by Johaug already. I think we're going to see a good fight there, but Bjørgen, as you can see, a lot of empty snow behind her. She's got the crowd behind her as well. They all know her history. She has yet to win the Tour. She was second in the very first year behind Koitunen of Finland. She was 10th in 2009. She was second in 2012. Didn't enter in 13. She didn't complete last year. Heidi Weng fighting for second place. That would go down as a major achievement. She finished third last year. The leading women have just under 2 kilometers to go in this Tour de Ski. Heidi Weng is about to feel, or about to hear, the breathing of Therese Johaug. It might be a mixture of both, the way Therese Johaug is working at the moment. Remember, she started 39 seconds behind. It's taken us 7.1 kilometers to catch up, but we don't know what's going to happen when Johaug goes past, or whether she'll go past straight away. Will she just sit behind Heidi Weng for a while and try and recover?
I think she will. The pace that she's pushed since the base of this hill, she's picked up 22 seconds in the last, 3 minutes of racing. Phenomenal pace. Although the camera is foreshortening it a little, she's still got a few seconds to gain.
2:29 still behind Marit Bjørgen, Mike, and Johaug started 2:50.
Oh no, just the next, they've just gone through that next time check.
So 2:11 behind Marit Bjørgen, started 2:50 behind. Is she thinking in terms of winning overall?
I think, well, Therese Johaug, she's programmed to only want to win. And look at the tempo here of Marit Bjørgen. She knows she's not chased at the moment, but this will feed Johaug when she's watching this slower tempo.
Well, Johaug's got to get close enough to see it at 2 minutes 11 behind. They are down to 10 kilometers an hour, just under 10 kilometers an hour, having come into the base of the hill at around 22.5, 23 kilometers per hour, depending on which athlete it was. Number 4, Ragnhild Haga. If she holds on to a top 4, that will be a sensation. So Norway get 1, 2 and 3 last year, could be 1, 2, 3 and 4 this year, with Haga doing so well. And of course, getting a podium finish in the very first leg of the Tour, the prologue in Oberstdorf. I must say I like that prologue, Mike. I'd like to see another race of that sort of distance, but in the different style, obviously.
I think they've got the balance right, more right as the years have gone on, and only one sprint this year. That's a major change. All the top sprinters didn't bother turning up, really.
Well, through goes Haga. She started at 6:47. and she had a 14-15 second lead over the next skier. It looks as though she's pretty much maintained that, but there is behind her a group of what looks like 4 skiers, there may even be 5. There's Elizabeth Stephen taking it easy on the first leg, and now the work rate has gone through the roof. 5 athletes together. Her tactics clear.
Well, that's very, very clever pacing, because as you said, she was down some 15 seconds after only 1.8 kilometers. So Stephen pacing it beautifully. Now she can open up on all turbos.
She wanted to finish in the top 5, and she's got herself into the top 5 already. And the steep climbing hasn't even started. Nicole Fessel's having a good leg already. Could deny the American in the closing stages. Kowalczyk is just not the Kowalczyk that we've known for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. Remember, she's won it 4 times, 10, 11, 12 and 2013. Here goes Therese Johaug past Heidi Weng. Now,
well,
a tested character for Weng, or do you think she has to just ski at her own pace? It's almost impossible to do anything else. You're right on maximum from the start of the climb, and you just stay there.
I think Heidi Weng was surprised that Therese has caught her so quickly. I'm sure she was expecting there was a chance that Therese Johaug would catch her, but not so early.
Emma Viken just going through 8 minutes 29 behind, having started 8:17, so she's only lost 12 seconds to the leaders. And Stephanie Böhler 8:17 as well. Not a bad start from Stephanie Böhler.
I was just thinking, as Therese Johaug moved from 3rd to 2nd, that's 30,000 Swiss francs. Now she's just moved up to 50,000 if she can hang on to the 2nd. And hey, everything will motivate you when you're on that hill.
Well, someone who has as many sponsors as Therese Johaug doesn't have to worry about the odd 30,000 Swiss francs. The prize money relatively small in cross-country skiing, certainly when you compare it to jumping and alpine.
It is, and when you look at the intense days that they have, and I can't think of any other athlete, Patrick, racing, current athlete that's racing or ever, who brings out their own branded name of ski gloves and fashion wear as Johaug has done. Look at the tempo here. It's just survival, it's just keeping momentum. Well, with that 2 minute gap, 2 minute cushion, she can afford to do just this.
She could play with Johaug, but it would be a risky business. It would be nice to see Johaug close it down to some 5 or 6 seconds coming into the home straight. I still can't see that happening, because although it's 28 degrees, Marit Bjørgen's still moving very well. 28 degrees, that's about your average staircase. That's what they're going up at the moment.
It's incredible, it really is. And in fact, the rule book says...
28%, I should say.
Percent it is. The rule book does say in World Cup racing normally, and this is an exception, that you can't have a slope, a climb, greater than 25%. So this is the exception.
Well done to Heidi Weng. She's stuck in there. She's just got to imagine that she has a tight rope between the back of Johaug and herself, and not to let that rope get stretched. She's got to push her limit. No danger of losing 3rd place, absolutely not, with Ragnhild Haga starting over 4 minutes behind her. So there's still almost 1.5 kilometers between her and 4th place. Johaug digs deep. She knows it's important to shake off Weng before they come into the last 500 metres. Still a lot of time to go. Weng is going to have to hang in there much longer than she would have wanted.
What I can't understand, Patrick, if you catch an athlete, you put so much work to pull back 39 seconds, as Johaug did with Heidi Weng. I'm surprised she didn't rest up, get some kind of recovery for even a minute, even 2 minutes, and then attack, then put up a positive attack on. Because it's demoralising now for Heidi Weng.
But you've just said she's only got one thing on her mind, winning, and that means catching Bjørgen. And if you want to catch Bjørgen, you can't afford to sit behind Weng for even 30 seconds.
It would have been beneficial to try and lower the pulse just for 1 minute, 2 minutes, just try and flush the body a little, but who am I to say? Therese Johaug knows how to race, and she's proved it so many times.
Well, all credit to Heidi Weng. I think this is a fantastic effort from her. She's only 23, Heidi Weng, still in the early days of her career. Marit Bjørgen up front is 34. We've got Therese Johaug, 26, I think, Therese Johaug. So she's still got 3 or 4 years of her absolute prime. But what about Marit Bjørgen setting the standard today? This is the one title that she has never won in world skiing. 4 Olympic golds, 8 World Championship titles, 89 World Cup wins. She's got the Crystal Globes. She's got so many Crystal Globes, she probably can't count them at home. A lot of them for sprinting in her early days. But today she is about to claim the Tour de Ski title. Good racing for the minor placings, Mike. Top 10, of course, all in the prize money. So one of these women is going to miss out. Going through 13 is Stadlober, still ahead of Saarinen, who had a great race yesterday. It was nice to see Saarinen put in a good performance.
And it will be good to see Saarinen again at the World Championships, another time at the World Champs, and they will be thinking again, we could win a medal at least in the relay.
Saarinen, number 14, just a place ahead of her teammate Anne Kiloinen. You don't need to be told who this is. Surely the world number 1 is going to claim the Tour de Ski title this year. She's had a brilliant season. I can't think of a season where she's been so dominant for so long. You know, and I think the next big test, Mike, is whether she can dominate at the World Championships. You can see the 2 chasers in the background. They've still got 3 or 4 zigzags to go through before they get to the point where Björgen is. Because the Tour, Mike, it's proved hard to win. Kalle, Koitunen, of course, Kowalczyk have been the dominant figures so far. None of them have then gone on to dominate the majors that same year.
Often not. It's surprisingly when Kowalczyk has won, as you said, so many times. She has gone on later in the season and won the odd major title, but it doesn't do you much good if you go straight back into racing after 7 days like this.
1:57 behind at the last split point. More and more credit being piled onto Heidi Weng, because to hold on to Therese Johaug, and this, remember, is Therese Johaug's favourite race of the whole season. She loves the climb. I think they're going to be pushing each other to a phenomenally quick time. Here comes a sprint from Johaug, and another real test for Heidi Weng, trying to get through, and she's opened up a gap of 5 or 6 metres. Oh, that was a determined move from Johaug, just what she needed. My goodness.
What an athlete, what a fighter, just machine.
Well, we need a microphone on their race bibs just so we can hear the breathing rate, because that would give you some indication of just how hard they're working. Björgen coming into the final stages. 500 metres to go. They're not going to be an easy 500, but she knows now, at last, that the Tour de Ski title is hers. I wonder what's going through her head. The speech for this evening?
Well, she'll thank, as she always does, all her backup team, and quite right too. There's so many people put so much work into this, but I don't think that Marit Björgen will relax until she crosses that line. She's been told that Therese is closing, but still over 1:45 behind.
Well, I've never seen Johaug's stride quite so short as this, but the work rate is still there. The jaw, the mouth open. She's trying to suck in as much of this thin air as she possibly can, just to keep supplying those muscles with energy. Further down, Elizabeth Stevens having a great run. She's going to prevent the Norwegian 1, 2, 3, 4 the way things are going. Absolutely brilliant tactics from Steven. I wish Andy Musgrave had used the same earlier on today. There's more than 15 seconds you can gain on the climb. And if you take that approach easy, you save every ounce of energy for this part of the course. She goes and she goes and she goes. There's no chance she'll get on the podium. But she wanted 5th. It looks as though she's going 4th.
Just again, the fight, the technique. We know that she's ultimately an amazing climber, and that's how the tougher courses suit her. Carrying her body weight up steep slopes and just endlessly fighting.
Yeah, she did 35.18 on the climb last year, Elizabeth Steven. Just to put that into context, Therese Johaug did 34.19, so she was 59 seconds slower than Johaug last year. We'll try and get you the times as they come through, just to see whether the American has managed to outski Therese Johaug, and I think she might well have done.
Well, that's Johaug now taking, 1 minute 11 seconds out of the performance of Björgen.
Weng is broken, I'm afraid, so no sprint to the line between 2nd and 3rd. It's going to be last year's winner who takes runners-up position this year, and Weng is going to finish in 3rd where she was last year. She's not had a World Cup win. Of all the women on the circuit, who deserves one most?
Well, Weng.
I think Weng has to be the one at the moment. Haga she won't give up. If she can keep the margin to 4 or 5 metres, she might find something in the legs over the final stages. Stephen can't have a huge amount left to give. Do you favour this technique over the skate one?
I really think it's more efficient. You're putting less super loading on both sides, and it's giving the body some kind of recovery rather than this type of loading of the major muscle groups. You can't do it for too long, though. It's not faster over the longer distance.
Well, there aren't many people who smile before they reach the top, but Marit Bjørgen can't help herself at the moment. She can see the lift station. That indicates that she's closing in on the finish. And now Therese Johaug 1:44 behind, having started 2:50. So a massive, massive gain.
Look down the valley. They started way actually lower this side of the road, which is lower than the road itself. 405 metres to the finish line. They've climbed it on this slope alone.
Now, for Scottish skiers, Mike, you live at the base of the Cairngorms. Which of the slopes does this equivalent to? Or is it bigger than anything they've got in Aviemore?
It would be, I suppose, equivalent to starting halfway between Aviemore and Glenmore Lodge and then skiing from there to the top of Cairngorm Mountain. Which is a phenomenal, which is the sixth highest in Scotland.
Yeah, most people take a day and a half over it.
Well, it's a downhill slope like this.
Kowalczyk. Well, she doesn't look like the world champion that she's been in the past today. She hasn't looked like that at all this week. Now, I'm looking forward to Marit Bjørgen's celebration. How long has she been frustrated? She's had to pull out of so many tours, unable to compete with the best. But this year, she got it absolutely right. She won the prologue just to say, I want this victory. She won stage 2, stage 3, stage 4, stage 5. She didn't hand the win to Therese Johaug yesterday, but she's about to cross the line and become the champion for 2015 at last. At last, and now no one can argue that she isn't the best women's skier that we have ever seen.
Today she's landed well with her victories at World Cup, but this always eluded her. She couldn't last the distance, and that was a weakness in her earlier game when she was mid-20s. She would be good for 4 days at a World Champs, but she would often drop back.
So 33:27 the time for Marit Bjørgen. She did 35:25 back in 2012, obviously not winning on that occasion. Now, what is the time for Therese Johaug going to be? She started 2:50 behind, as we've told you. I think she's going to be about a minute quicker than Marit Bjørgen. That puts her down at 32:27. Remember, the quickest time ever for a woman on this climb is 33:14 by Therese Johaug herself.
Well, actually, I think she's going to be taking a minute and a half out of Bjørgen's time, but Bjørgen slowed down on the final stages. What a job, what a great fight from Johaug.
Well, I think Johaug knows that second is hers, but she's really fighting for that fast time because it's worth 50 points on the World Cup circuit. It's worth a decent handful of prize money as well. The Norwegian flags are out and they're going to have another heyday here. A 1-2-3 for Norway coming up in the next minute and a half. It's Johaug who moves from third into second. It took a whole lot of work. Maybe she was chasing Bjørgen, but surely she knew that was not going to be possible. 1:39 behind. Incredible. So she's taken a minute and 10, a minute and 11.
What a performance. And it just shows the strength that Bjørgen has. You feel that Bjørgen could have given more if she was chased or in a fight, and has set an amazing time.
Well done to Heidi Weng. She's disappointed because she couldn't hang on to Therese Johaug. Third last year, third this year. In some ways you could say no improvement, but she's been so impressive this season. She is a champion of the future. Well, as we watch the leading three, not often you see a tear in the eye of Marit Bjørgen, but it's taken a lot of work, a lot of dedication to do this. Weng just wondering what she had to do to beat Therese Johaug. I guess, Mike, it was lost yesterday, not today.
It was the third place in the mass start yesterday that lost her a good number of seconds, and on the sprints within that journey, the 10-kilometre journey yesterday in the classic style.
Well, here comes Elizabeth Stevens. She's not secured fourth place quite yet. Ragnhild Hager has recovered to get right within a couple of metres of. We're going to have a sprint finish for fourth place, fourth and fifth. They go through 7:32, 7:33. It's a fantastic time. Elizabeth Stevens started 7:39 behind Marit Bjørgen, so I can already confirm that Therese Johaug, for the fifth time, in fact the sixth time, records the fastest time on the Alpchemise. Totally dominant. But Stephen is going to be, well, she might just slip inside Marit Bjørgen's time, so we'll keep a very close eye on that. She started 7:39 behind the Tour winner. Good finish from Hager, Mike. Not often we see someone who comes to life in the last 400-500 metres.
Well, that's incredible, and I think when Stephen went past Hager didn't panic. I thought that that it was over at that stage, but Stephen had put in a phenomenal pace and went past her so fast that she's truly suffering right now. It's still not over, although Stephen's head is going down, and often that's an indicator of what is left in your body, what is left in your fight.
They started 52 seconds apart, so Stephen the quickest to this point, but it's about who crosses the line first, because Hager is looking to give Norway a 1, 2, 3 and 4. A total whitewash. Yet again for the Norwegians. Their dominance, some question whether it's good for the sport. You cannot be unimpressed by what they've managed to do. It won't go on forever. They might as well enjoy the golden days. But Hager's a young skier. Johaug's not so old. And of course, Weng is young, so they've got a long future. 4 more years before anyone's going to challenge them. So here we go, just a word that they have weather problems in Bad Mittendorf, and the ski jumping is likely to be cancelled. I think that means that we'll be heading straight to the biathlon. Now let's look for the sprint finish. Stevens come back. Hager trying to hold on to fourth place at the moment. These two are going to be absolutely exhausted when they cross the line. Hager still with a meter's advantage, but Steven coming strong on the right-hand side for the USA. This is going to be the best American finish, whatever. It's a fantastic effort from Stephen, and Keegan Randall, Jessie Diggins will be shouting to the skies, trying to urge her on back into fourth place. Only half a metre between them. Hager for Norway, Stephen for America, and still they've got a couple of 100 metres to go.
Oh, well, Hager's just got a little bit more efficiency. She's stepped into skate 2, the Norwegian coach and the American coach screaming alongside.
Yeah, Hager technically looking the stronger skier at the moment, but that doesn't mean much. Stevens starting to fall apart, look a little bit ragged, but she is a fighter, a real fighter, and she's not going to let this one go easily. They can see the finish now. Steven wisely drops into the slipstream of Hager. She'll have one more shot at this, but that last burst perhaps coming too early, and surely the lactate levels are right up there. She went on the left initially, now she goes on the right. The 200-metre mark on their right, so an extra 30 seconds to go for the fight for fourth and fifth. What a climax for the women's Tour de Ski. How good would it have been if that had been the race for first place? It's not, but it's still a fantastic spectacle. Hager still looks stronger than Steven to me, but Steven's not letting go. The head is down, her centre of gravity about a foot lower than she normally skis, and now Hager starts to pull away. 100 metres to go for these two. It's been an awesome fight for that fourth and fifth position. Prize money at stake, World Cup points at stake, but it's all about the pride. And finally, Elizabeth Steven is beaten, and Ragnhild Hager puts in yet another burst to secure 1, 2, 3, 4 for Norway. Astonishing stuff, great to see it, and anyone who says this isn't the sort of format to have for the final day of the Tour de Ski might suddenly decide that it is worth watching. It is a fantastic spectacle.
What a fight, and for Hager, 23-year-old, to use the strategy that she's used, she has nothing left, and the desire to take that fourth place, was so strong. I do feel for Steven. It looked like halfway up the hill she'd done everything right.
So we've got to leave very quickly for the biathlon. Bjørgen, the winner of the Tour de Ski at last. Johaug in second, Weng third, Hager 4, and Elizabeth Steven, the best of the rest, in 5.